Order. Welcome all of you. Tonight we have Ryan Caith here from KGOS, KERM Radio. So this is being broadcast live on the radio and on YouTube. We also have Miss Cindy Shealy from the Torrington Telegram. This is Tuesday, November 21, 2023. This is the 22nd council meeting of the year and the second council meeting in November. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I have asked Councilman Wayne Deal to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I'm very pleased to have several, indeed more than several, very quiet young men here tonight. I believe they represent the Torrington High School football team. And we have this at the top of the agenda. I got a suggestion from Councilman Shane Victron last week to think about inviting the football team over to give them some recognition and some honor for achieving a great goal, which is the Torrington State Championship. So I was able to call Gabe Bartlett, who I know, who is the athletic director, and worked through Gabe, and this is the result of that, and I really appreciate your being here. I will start it, and then we'll probably invite Coach Steinmetz up here. Is he? There he is, here shortly, and if I get anything wrong, you correct me. There was a game played on Friday, the 10th of November. 2023, Torrington High School beat the Bighorn Rams by a score of 28-26. And to my understanding, this is the first state high school football championship for Torrington since 1990, which, if I do my math correctly, that's 33 years. So that's a wonderful achievement, and I'd be willing to give you guys a hand for that. And I am indeed thrilled to have you all here, and I'd invite Coach Steinmetz up if he wanted to just give us a little detail and tell us what you think you ought to tell us, Coach.
Is it on? All right.
Yeah.
No, just proud of these boys. And then we went on to win postseason accolades, several of them. We had 8 all-conference football players, and then all 8 of those ended up going on to be all-state also. So just very proud of them. And then out of those, we got 2A Offensive Player of the Year and then 2A Lineman of the Year. So the offensive player was Bryce Hager, and then the lineman was Ty Bennick. So just proud of this team, proud of all of them. So.
Well, we're all proud of you, and I'll certainly give any councilman an opportunity to speak to the group.
I just think after 33 years, Torrington High School deserves a standing ovation.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll get them out of here so it's a little bit less quiet.
Coach, we have a rule here that once they come in, they have to stay for the whole meeting.
Thank you very much for coming. Greatly appreciated.
Nice job, guys.
Yes, good job.
So if you haven't finished signing, if you sign those real fast, and then some of them are headed back to basketball practice and wrestling practice. So your coaches gave them a little window here to get here for this. Hey, look.
Good turnout.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that was impressive.
Yes. Good idea, Shane.
Huh?
It was a good idea.
I think the last time they had a championship, it wasn't 2A though,
Come
was
up here.
No, it was 3A.
it? That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, we don't go there. All right, next item on the agenda is the mayor's informational items, and I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Please note that the city offices will be closed on Thursday, November 23rd, and Friday, November 24th. Thanksgiving was first celebrated by the Pilgrim colonists from England and the Wampanoag people that were native to Massachusetts. For the next 2 centuries, various days of Thanksgiving were celebrated in the colonies and in the several states. In 1863, in the midst of the American Civil War, President Lincoln proclaimed a national Thanksgiving holiday be held each November. Since 1863, Thanksgiving has been a celebrated national holiday. What I say here now applies to me also, but I would suggest that we all deeply ponder all of our blessings, give thanks for the blessings, and ponder deeply and give thanks to the ultimate source of the blessings, God Almighty. Happy Thanksgiving. The Friday after Thanksgiving is traditionally the first day of the Christmas season. Please note that in addition to Black Friday on November 24th, the day after Thanksgiving, Saturday, November 25th, is Small Business Saturday here in Torrington. Please support your local small businesses this Saturday, which is Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Please attend this year's 2023 Christmas Parade on Main Street. This will be held on Friday, December 1st, 2023. The parade area will be closed at 5 p.m. and the parade will start at 6 p.m. As always, please drive carefully, please slow down, and please do not use your cell phones while driving. And as this is the season to celebrate, please drink responsibly and please avoid a ticket for drinking and driving. Again, happy Thanksgiving. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes minutes from the November 7th, 23 council meeting as published.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion from Councilman Kelly to approve the consent agenda as set forth. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Councilman Patterson. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, the consent agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda itself, and I did explain to council that we will take item 7 off. That was to do with the review and consideration of the updated lease agreement regarding the airport solar project, and we thought it best to take that off the agenda due to Mr. Eddington being ill tonight and unable to attend. And there's a substantial contract that I was sure that council would want to address the city attorney and have plenty of questions for him about that. So we'll put that off until the December 5th meeting. And I would also note, and I informed council, Chief Johnson is here, and I would like to put on the agenda as item number 7, just to replace that, request from council, or from Chief Johnson, to purchase a Wyoming Highway Patrol vehicle for $8,000, as he did previously, not too long ago. And I would like a motion to include that as item number 7.
Mr. Mayor, to that end, then I would move to amend the agenda by deleting item 7 and replacing with consideration of a police department vehicle purchase, and further move to approve the agenda as amended.
I have a motion from Councilman Victorin to amend the agenda to put the police department potential purchase as item number 7 and to remove the solar lease as item 7, and to approve the agenda with that amendment as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilman Deal. Is there any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote on that amended agenda as stated. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, the agenda as amended is approved. Thank you. I always explain the public forum segment. We do not have any sign-up sheets in that box right in front of Councilman Victorin, but I want to explain it to people who are listening on the radio or who are here present. This is a section of the agenda for non-agenda items, and there is a time limit of 2 minutes, and the speaker must sign up before the meeting. This is a time for council to listen. No action will be taken, and we don't have any sign-ups, but I wanted to explain that section of the agenda. The next item on the agenda is the action items. Number 1 is to approve or ratify the catering permit approved on November 15th of 2023. Sarah Young with the Open Barrel Brewing Company requested a catering permit for a Goshen County Economic Development annual meeting that was held on November 16th, 23, from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. at 2042 Main Street, which is otherwise known as 21st and Main. And I would briefly call on Chief Johnson on that.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. A very standard event with the usual precautions that we asked folks to utilize for that type of an event, and was hosted with no problems that I'm aware of. Would recommend ratification.
All right, gentlemen, any questions for Chief Johnson?
Mayor, I would move to ratify.
I have a motion from Councilman Patterson to ratify as the catering permit as set forth in item number 1. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Deal. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of ratifying and approving the catering permit as set forth in item number 1 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that catering permit is ratified. Next item on the agenda is another catering permit. Ethan Fitch with the Mint Bar is requesting a catering permit for a Goshen County Public Library fundraising event to be held on December 2nd, 23, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at 2001 East A Street. And I'd call on Chief Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a fundraiser for adults only. It's a very low-risk event. We've hosted similar events in the past with no problems, and we have the same expectations for this event. Mr. Fitch is certainly amply qualified to run this safely, and I would recommend approval.
Chief Johnson, is this the first time event at the public library? It's ongoing?
No, we've had similar fundraisers in past years.
Any questions, council, for Chief Johnson?
Mr. Mayor, I would, if you're entertaining a motion, I would so move to approve the catering permit for the public library fundraiser event as presented.
I have a motion from Councilman Victorin to approve the catering permit as presented in item number 2. Do I have a second for that?
Second.
Second from Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the catering permit as set forth in item 2 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that catering permit set forth in item number 2 is approved.
Thanks, Ethan.
Welcome. Next item on the agenda is the request for a special event permit. Leanne Mattis and Mariah Harkins from Go Goshen are requesting a special event permit for the 2023 Christmas Parade to be held on December 1, 23 from 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. The applicants are requesting approval to close the public street on Main Street between 19th Avenue and 25th Avenue and to have the special event permit waived. Chief Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Please forgive me, I did notice this evening, thanks to Leanne pointing out to me, I didn't catch this earlier, but it shows 19th Avenue to 25th Avenue on the agenda. The actual event will run from 19th Avenue to 27th Avenue. It'll run up to the Methodist Church there. This is a very identical event to ones that we've hosted in the past. Great way to kick off the Christmas season. We have had really no problems with the event in the past. We are closing the street a little bit earlier this year than we did last year. Last year, we kind of tried to bring that right up against the parade start time, and we wound up with a little more traffic in the street than what we preferred. So we're closing at 5 and just leaving that set up so that incoming traffic won't be coming into downtown, but we'll let folks that are leaving downtown get out. And that'll offer, I think, a little bit safer of an event and a little less obstacles for spectators when the parade kicks off at 6. We have used a pretty similar event plan to what we've had in the past. We're always grateful for the support from the fire department on this, and also from Ed Hawley's team at Streets in providing the barricades and helping to get all that laid out. So this is a great event. Staff recommends approval, and happy to stand for any questions.
I looked through the packet, the attachments to the special event permit and the notification of event pages. It looks like most, if not all, of the businesses that would be affected have been notified of it and actually signed off on it, is what I would call it. I'm sure they're not every single one of them, but all business owners down in that area that would be affected have been notified, that would be my understanding.
For the most part, yes.
Okay, so they either signed, and a lot of them signed, right? Okay. And this is on, I don't even know how many years this has gone on.
Oh,
It's been a long time.
Okay.
a lot.
And there's never been any problems that I'm aware of.
I haven't had any problems in any of the parades that we've run.
And I see Ms. Mattis is here. Did you want to address this, Ms. Mattis?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thanks for inviting me up. We just, we appreciate the council consideration for a fun, family-friendly holiday event. And gosh, I couldn't tell you how many years we've held the Christmas parade. It's longer than I've been around, so. But yeah, you mentioned the signature sheet. We try to visit with all the businesses. It just so happens that, every once in a while, at the time that we're walking up and down Main Street, there may be closed for business that day or during that hour or whatever it might be. But yeah, we try to notify as many folks as possible to do that. So.
Well, I would be very, very surprised if all of the business owners didn't have notice of this happening. And so they either signed a basic agreement to it or proved that they were notified.
Correct.
Or they had notice and could come here and object if they wanted. So.
Correct.
And it's pretty popular with the business owners.
Yeah, absolutely. So we typically hold a few other events kind of in conjunction with the parade from about 4 to 6 leading up to the parade. At 21st and Main, we'll have a few activities, family-friendly activities. Pinnacle Bank typically does a hot cocoa free to the community. I know that I visited with Rick Hoppel with Torrington Office Supply, who also wants to do kind of a warm-up station. He might do hot cider or something like that. But yeah, various businesses on Main Street participate and enjoy this event. So.
And it's kind of the kickoff to the Christmas season. Right?
Absolutely, and we're really pushing hard that Shop Small initiative as well. So, yeah.
Okay. Gentlemen, any questions for Ms. Mattis?
Mr. Mayor, I just had a question. Is Santa able to arrive this year?
Santa will be in the parade this year, yes. Hmm. I have his word.
And he doesn't lie.
He doesn't lie, no.
I'd just like to take an opportunity just to express appreciation for doing this there's a lot of work behind the scenes.
Yes.
That we don't always see or maybe fully appreciate, but it's just great to have this event in the community and appreciate the work that you do to make that happen. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And we, of course, are very thankful for the police department, the fire department, and the city employees that help us make it happen. So, yeah.
Is there going to be a notification thing to let people know they need to move their cars off of Main Street, or?
Go Goshen will do an announcement over the PA system to let folks know. And we're going to have the barricades set up to facilitate outbound traffic from downtown a full hour before the parade will begin.
So, Mayor, if you're ready, I would move to approve this special event permit.
And also,
Waive the fee?
And to waive the fee.
okay. I have a motion from Councilman Patterson to approve the special event permit for the annual Christmas parade and to waive the special event permit fee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Deal. Any further questions, gentlemen? Or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the special event permit set forth in item 3, which is the annual Christmas parade, and to waive the fee, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that special event permit is approved. Thank you, Ms. Mattis.
Thank you so much.
Next item on the agenda is item number 4. Request to approve an ordinance on first reading related to alcoholic beverage permits to the city of Torrington. And Mr. Eddington is not here, so I would ask Mrs. Strecker to read the title of that ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. An ordinance creating and enacting Section 5.12.045 of the Torrington Municipal Code, 2023 revisions relating to alcoholic beverage permits in the city of Torrington.
Thank you, Mrs. Strecker. All right, I would now call on Chief Johnson to just give us a brief rundown of the history of the drafting of this ordinance and why the staff recommends it.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This really is the, I guess, pickup from our conversation in the work session earlier this year related to catering permits, open container permits, alcoholic beverage permits in general. And I guess there was a couple of pushes in that. One was to have some better clarity for what we were doing as a city related to those permits. And 2 was to give you folks some freedom of not having to be involved in each and every single one of those that came through as a request, because we're seeing quite a few of them, and it's perhaps not the best utilization of council time to work in that regard. We started digging into it and really working on that, and what we found was that we really didn't have virtually anything in ordinance that laid out the catering permits, the malt beverage permits, the wine permits, the open container permits. It was loosely based off of state statute, forgive me, not enunciating clearly. And then with the open container permit, we didn't really have much of anything except for kind of an old administrative letter that had laid out what the process was. So we felt like it was important to essentially create an entire new ordinance that just laid out a lot of clarity for each one of those permits, what they're required and what the approval process is. I'm happy to, there's quite a bit here. A lot of it is kind of repetitive in form, if you will, for each type of permit. There are a few slight differences, particularly with open container and with the wine permit. The open container obviously is based strictly on municipal ordinance, and the wine permit has some different requirements in statute that we need to abide by. As you know, we can be a little bit more restrictive than state statute, but we can't be less restrictive than state statute. So we had to make sure that we were in compliance with statute for each one of those. Happy to answer questions, happy to walk you through anything that you've got concerns about, but that's kind of the broad overview. Sylvia has a lot and was super helpful in contributing to this as well, so If I missed anything, Sylvia, please feel free to jump in on that.
I think maybe just the increase.
Oh, yes, that would be a good thing to cover. We did raise the fees on this from $30 to $50 for each of the permits. There's also a late fee that's accessible in there if it's submitted less than 10 days prior. We felt like that was particularly important because we are promising to get this turned around in 5 business days. And we would also like to have some time for planning and for advertisement of catered events.
And just those fees are set forth on page 3 of the proposed ordinance at the bottom. Just if anybody was looking for those.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question, if I could ask the chief. This is not in any way a criticism, a curiosity.
Sure.
I noticed that the number of permits are to be issued per year are limited.
Under statute.
Thank you.
We actually, Sylvia actually caught it, and we kind of went back and forth about adding it because it's really unlikely that we'd ever have that many at any one given location in our community. But since that is a statutory limit, we felt like it was important to list it just in case we ever needed to impose it.
Sure, and that makes sense now that you say that. I could see where the legislature would want to limit so that it's not a daily occurrence or
Yep.
something, yeah.
Yep.
And I had a question,
Yes, sir.
if I could,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Mayor. Under the malt beverage permits, you specify that the beverages must be purchased from the Wyoming Malt Beverage Wholesale Distributor.
Yes, sir.
Is the PD going to be responsible for enforcing that, or is there any enforcement related to that you envision?
You know, it's not something that we investigate with a malt beverage permit, and we have very, very few malt beverage permits. It is something that Sylvia and her team lays out in terms of expectations when they accept money for the permit and with all of the information that they get back on the permit. So with this particular one, each one of these permits, I put together a list of expectations. Sylvia approves that, and then we provide that to the person who's the applicant. So that would be something that would be required under that. If a person who applied for the permit failed to do so and we became aware of it, we would actually have the authority to immediately revoke their permit and close the event. So that would be the enforcement provision for that particular issue.
And of course, I would imagine most malt beverage permits would be somebody who has a retail liquor license who is already under those auspices anyway, so.
It's certainly possible.
I've just got one question. Under the catering permit, and I don't know whether it's been there for all these years and I just never noticed it. But on the catering permit, the ones that we got tonight, it says that they must have a temporary food license is required for catered events, and they have to attach a valid copy of the temporary license to this application. Has that ever been done?
Yes. They get submitted to me once these permits are approved, then I request a copy of that.
Okay.
Yep,
'Cause I've done this for years and I don't ever remember ever seeing one of them.
yep.
You just don't attach them to the
Probably
agenda.
what,
Like 3 years ago?
3 or 4 years ago, it was.
Is the Department of Health requires that?
Should that be included in the statute then?
I'm not against including that in the ordinance. It seems to work pretty well now with just having Sylvia collect that as part of the permit application process. But I don't know that it would cause a problem to add it.
Well,
You might ask Jim about it.
yeah, and I'm just wondering, that's more pertaining to food, right?
Well,
to
In order to
both.
get the
so
catering.
it's kind of like, if they have limes or cherries or the ice to cool the
Yeah,
beer,
yeah,
that's
okay.
what that would cover, yeah.
Okay, so.
And it's their requirement, not so much ours, so that's why I handle it internally, just kind of after the fact.
I
to make
suppose
sure.
that's something that would be looked into for second reading, to give us a chance to,
Sure.
so we don't
Yes, Jim.
delay this, but,
It's a little awkward because it's technically not related to the service of the alcohol. It's actually related to the service of food
Yeah.
rather than the alcohol. But, I mean, we have other requirements in there. I mean, we've got a section in each one of these that says that if a special events permit is necessary for it to be hosted, then it shall be. And so, I mean, if we could do the same thing with the requirement for Department of Health and just say if it's required for catering that they need to have it.
My only concern, and it may not be an issue at all, but I'd like to hear our attorney's opinion on it, is that you've got to be careful that you don't put too much stuff in an ordinance where it's titled, beverage permits, and then the stuff that's peripherally related but may fit somewhere else better.
Yep.
I don't know. But
I could see it working either way.
It's a good point that
yep.
at some
Yeah, I mean-
place it needs addressed.
We can ask Jim his opinion and go from there, I guess.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I've got a note. I'll be glad to touch base with them.
And you mentioned it, and if you hadn't, I was going to, but there's a lot of work that went into this. And I know, Chief Johnson, you put a lot of work into it, and I know Sylvia put a lot of work into it, and it's been reviewed by Jim. But that's an issue that Councilman Patterson raised and Councilman Kelly about mentioning the food license permit, which we can look into. But I wanted to thank you guys, Sylvia and Chief, and Jim, if he were here, for the work that went into this. And I know this seems like a very long ordinance, and it probably is compared to most of our ordinances. But sometimes, in order to be clear and to attempt to be unambiguous, that's the big challenge to drafting an ordinance or a statute, is to be unambiguous, because somebody, a lawyer especially, or a sharp layman, will take advantage of ambiguities. And I have reviewed this once or twice in that process after you guys did the hard work, and it looks like a good product. So I know it's long, but I think it covers everything we need to cover, and sometimes you just got to use a lot of words to cover the territory that you need to cover.
Thank you.
I guess I have a question, Mr. Mayor and Chief, about a hypothetical situation that would be a public event but on private property. And what a person or business would have to do or need to do, if any, concerning compliance with this proposed ordinance. I could easily give you an example of maybe a merchant wants to have a business after hours, but they want to supply wine or malt beverages. Would they have to apply for any permit inside here?
Yes, and that would also be required by state statute. Because if you're serving alcohol publicly, you do have to have a catering permit to do so.
Okay.
So if you're inviting members of the public in, and you're going to provide them alcohol as part of a retail business, you would need the catering permit, both through our ordinance and through state statute. We put a little bit of thought and time into that concept of public event, public property, private property, and tried to kind of brainstorm a lot of those types of situations. And so, same situation, a retail merchant has 3 friends over to the business after it's closed, and they're doing inventory, and they wish to consume alcoholic beverages in their private premise at a private event while they're working in the store. There would be no need for a catering event. Same thing, like a graduation party. If you have a graduation party on your private property and it's not open to the public and you're not selling and serving alcohol to the public, you don't need a catering permit. That's a perfectly acceptable course of life that each of us enjoys. But when you start to mix the private property with a public event or a public event on private property, that's really where that's triggered. And Sylvia and I brainstormed that quite a bit, and Jim and I also brainstormed that quite a bit, and it seems like it fits all of the scenarios that we have been faced with over the last number of years that we've worked together on this. But it's always possible that there could be some hybrid combination that's going to require some interpretation.
Sure. Very good. Thank you.
Sylvia, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to not ask for your opinion on that. Do you have anything else you'd
I
like to
totally
add?
agree. We did debate that quite a bit,
Okay.
so, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Any, Councilman, any further questions for either the chief or for deputy city clerk? More comments?
If no more comments, I would move to approve on first reading.
I have a motion from Councilman Patterson to approve item number 4, ordinance on first reading relating to alcohol beverage permits in the city of Torrington. Do I have a second? Second from Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion, gentlemen?
My question, Mr. Mayor, would be, if there are revisions for second reading, do we then have to go back to first reading if there are amendments to it? No? Okay, thank you.
That was a good question. So we can pass this as it is on first reading, and that still gives us a chance to change it on second
Every
reading.
year, yes.
I've got a hungry spider.
Oh, well, Wayne had it over here and he knocked it out.
All right.
okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Councilman Deal.
It could have been poisonous.
Yeah.
Is there any further discussion? I can't remember, but I believe I have a motion and a second.
Yes.
If there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving on first reading the ordinance relating to alcoholic beverage permits in the city of Torrington signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that ordinance set forth in item 4 is approved on first reading.
I apologize, Mr. Mayor. I should have just killed him here. I didn't realize you were an
I
arachnophobe.
think you got away.
Well, I saw him running under there and I didn't.
All right. Next item on the agenda is item number 5, ordinance on first reading relating to liquor license/permit fees. I will call on City Clerk Strecker to read that title.
An ordinance amending and reenacting Section 5.12.020 of the Torrington Municipal Code, 2023 revisions relating to liquor license/permit fees.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Strecker. Call on Chief Johnson on this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This one is largely, actually 100% Ms. Sylvia's work, and it essentially is just the complement to the ordinance that you just reviewed. The last 4 sections, sections I through L, address the change of fee structure for the alcoholic beverage permits. So it just reflects the change from $30 to $50.
And that's my understanding. The only thing we're doing here is reflecting that change from,
Be consistent. Yep.
For some reason, I was under the assumption that all these fees were set by the state.
They are. 50 is the maximum for these permits, so
Oh.
we're just making them the max.
Okay.
and it's been 30 for years and years and years.
I think
Yes.
the
And all the rest
estimate
of the
was
fees are maxed, right?
20-some years of $30. Was that what we thought today?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
As long as
yeah.
I've known.
Yeah.
But all the rest of the fees are maxed?
No.
We just discovered recently that, no, there may be a possibility for us to adjust some of these other license fees. We would just like to review with Jim Eddington and really look into everything before we propose anything, but there is a possibility where we could possibly get these raised as well.
Of course, some of them we probably don't use that much anyway.
Yeah, the majority probably not, but for example, restaurant is a possibility to raise, bar and grill. We are at the max for retail. That's pretty much the only one where we're at the maximum, so.
Now, the bar and grill licenses, they're not restricted by the number to give out either, are they?
Restricted by what?
By the number that can have, we can only have so many retail liquors, but bar and grill, you can have as many as you want, can't you?
No, they are limited by our population as well.
Are they? What are they limited to?
So it's changing. Just recently, we were given 2 more, so we have 4 total that are available.
We don't have any retail licenses left, do we?
No, they are all taken up. Yep.
And if it hasn't caught council's attention, that resort liquor license caught my attention. And there is a qualification or criteria for that we don't have yet. It's got to be $1 million business and a hotel, motel,
Conference
complex with a convention center. And so if somebody wants to move here and have one of those, we would have a resort liquor license available for them.
So, and that amount that is set by statute?
That is the, yeah,
Yeah.
set as well.
It's just
Yeah.
an odd amount.
Oh, but that's not the max. That's, I'm not sure where these amounts came from years ago, but yeah, it's just,
It's a lot higher than
Yeah.
the rest of them. All right, if council does council have any more questions for Chief Johnson or Ms. Anaya or Ms. Strecker? I would entertain a motion.
Hearing no more questions, I would make a motion to approve the ordinance on first reading.
I have a motion from Councilman Deal to approve the ordinance on first reading and set forth in item 5 relating to liquor license / permit fees. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Kelly. Is there any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving on first reading the ordinance set forth in item number 5 relating to liquor license / permit fees signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that ordinance is approved on first reading. Next item on the agenda is the proclamation proclaiming November 25th, 23 as Small Business Saturday, and I've asked Mr. Strecker if she would read that proclamation to us.
Whereas the government of the city of Torrington, Wyoming celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, and whereas according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 33 million small businesses in the United States. Small businesses represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 62.7% of net new jobs created since 1995. And small businesses employ 46.4% of the employees in the private sector in the United States. And whereas 68 cents of every dollar spent at a small business in the United States stays in the local community, and every dollar spent at small businesses creates an additional 48 cents in local business activity as a result of employees and local businesses purchasing local goods and services. And whereas 72% of the consumers reported that Small Business Saturday 2022 made them want to shop and dine at small, independently owned retailers and restaurants all year long. And whereas the city of Torrington, Wyoming supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday, now therefore, I, Herb Doby, Mayor of the City of Torrington, Wyoming, do hereby proclaim November 25th, 2023 as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year.
Thank you, Mrs. Strecker.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Victorin.
I would move to approve the proclamation and authorize you to sign.
I have a motion from Councilman Victorin to approve the proclamation and authorize the mayor to sign. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second that.
I have a second from Councilman Patterson. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the proclamation set forth in item 6 and authorizing the mayor to sign it, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that proclamation is declared and the mayor will sign it. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item number 7. Well, it is item number 7, but it's been changed with the amended motion that was passed. It is to do with the proposed purchase by Chief Johnson of a vehicle from the Wyoming Highway Patrol, and I will just call on you to explain that, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Wanted to touch base with you this evening and seek your approval to make the purchase of another one of the Wyoming Highway Patrol Dodge Charger police vehicles. I received a phone call from the Highway Patrol last week. I have a contact there and asked if he came across another nice vehicle, or as he came across nice vehicles, if he would give me a shout and let me know what was available. He has another vehicle, another 2019 Dodge Charger police package. It's very similar in equipment from the last vehicle that we purchased. It has a very high level and high quality of police equipment installed in the vehicle that will come with the purchase. It has a few less miles on it than the last one did. I think the last one had 124,000. This one has 120,000. But it's outfitted for a trooper vehicle, so it has a transport cage in the back. We've seen photos of it. Brian, our mechanic and shop manager, speaks very highly of the maintenance protocol that the cars receive at the State Patrol. And we believe that this would be a good purchase for us to make. We have the funding available from the settlement that we received for the last Dodge Charger, the civilian model that was totaled. And what we'd like to do is make this purchase, get the vehicle outfitted for our specifications of use, and then look at our current fleet of the civilian Dodge Chargers, select the next one that's having the most maintenance problems, and then offload that vehicle. Based on our estimates, we don't know how this will turn out. I want to emphasize that because I certainly don't have a crystal ball on the sale of used Dodge Chargers that are non-police vehicles. But we think there's a reasonable probability that we would actually earn enough money off of the sale of our existing civilian model Dodge Charger to more than cover the expense of the police model Dodge Charger that's all-wheel drive and designed for the work that we need it to do. The downside of this is that we're trading a car that has quite low miles in the form of our current Chargers for a car that has a higher number of miles, but we're having a lot of maintenance problems right now. And in talking to Brian, he really believes that having this police outfitted vehicle really increases the likelihood that we're going to have a vehicle that's more serviceable and doesn't have some of the maintenance issues that we're struggling with right now. He also has a much better pulse on the automotive market than I do. And as it turns out, the Dodge Charger police vehicles have a fairly high resale demand. Their suspension, braking, and engine packages are similar to some high-end fast cars that Dodge sells. And he believes that when we're done using these vehicles, that we can probably turn them around and sell them, provided they remain in decent condition, for close to the amount of money that we have in them. This just feels like a win. We get a really high level of police equipment, whereas our current cars are struggling with that. There are times when our folks get in to pull somebody over on a traffic stop, and the person doesn't even know that they're back there because of the quality of the police equipment that was originally installed on the vehicles. These Wyoming Highway Patrol cars will not have that problem, I pretty well can assure you. And it feels like a good move for us to have a vehicle that we think is going to be reliable. We expect it to be usable very effectively for 3 to 5 years, and we expect to be able to utilize that with very limited financial outlay. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or anything else that you might have.
Do you have the maintenance records on these vehicles? Have you seen any of those?
I know what the protocols are. I don't have the actual, I mean, Brian worked for the state, so he knows exactly what all their maintenance is and how it's performed on the cars. I have not looked at the specific records for this car.
Now, I know you said the civilian models, Chargers, have problems with this, that, and the other thing, but the police packages don't?
They are having less problems than we're having with the civilian Charger. I certainly can't guarantee that the police package won't fail at some point, but they are built much beefier, particularly the electrical systems, some of the features for long-term idling, features for long-term run time, that sort of thing. They're much more aggressively built.
Because the way I understood it, I heard that most of the problem was in the wiring, not in the actual vehicle operation, it's just in the wiring problems they had.
We've had a lot of wiring problems. A lot of those are related to the installation of the emergency equipment. Because the emergency equipment, the vehicles were not designed to have emergency equipment. They've been kind of chopped in, for lack of a better polite term. And so that has caused a number of issues. We've also had quite a few fuel pump failures, coolant leaks, power steering failures. I could have to lean on Brian for more description, but we just had another one today go up with a coolant leak that's going to be out for a while. So it's definitely something that we're seeing.
If I remember right, the police fleet was V6 engines, weren't they?
Our current fleet are V6 engines.
Yeah, and they weren't ever police cars to begin with.
No, they were not.
And I know there's a difference between them,
There's a pretty substantial difference between them.
but it sounded like a good deal at the time.
I understand.
Chief,
Sir.
should the council move forward on this purchase, how many of the civilian vehicles would remain in the fleet?
Assuming that we were able to get our new car purchased this year and that bid goes through, which is questionable given some of the production status, we would be down to 9. If this one goes, I'm sorry, is that right? We had 11? Yes, we'd be down to 9 with this one and 8 with the next one, with the next new vehicle. So, and honestly, that if the Highway Patrol is able to keep doing this, this might be a reasonable long-term fleet management plan. If we're able to come up with a good quality pre-built police vehicle that we can replace every 3 to 5 years with very reasonably priced secondhand from Wyoming Highway Patrol, that's got some potential for us.
What year is this vehicle where you're asking us to approve?
2019.
And the fleet of civilian Chargers are 2018s?
2018s, yes. It feels like it's worth at least trying this out a little bit and seeing how these cars work, and it's beneficial for us for a very reasonable cost.
Did we already get, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, did we already get the previous one?
Yes, we have. It's very nice.
And is it in service?
Not yet. We have to finish up some radio installs and some of those things. We will start operating it as soon as all of the radios and radar and everything else is operational. We won't have it marked for probably several weeks. I've got an order in with the company down in Cheyenne that does the striping and marking for us, so it'll be a few weeks before that's done.
And Chief Johnson, you said that your understanding from talking to Brian is if, for instance, this vehicle were put into service in the city of Torrington and then it aged out and was going to be resold or put on the market, that's fetching a higher price because it is a police package vehicle with that better suspension and better.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand all of Dodge's high performance marketing, but I think Brian mentioned the SRT package, which is effectively higher performance braking, higher performance suspension, a high performance motor. Some of them have all-wheel drive, some of them don't. Our cars do, or the cars that we're seeking to purchase have the all-wheel drive. We'll kind of have to see, I mean, we want to keep them as long as they're reliable and find that tipping point. But I mean, I think between 150 and 160,000 miles is probably a reasonable target at that, for at least what we know right now. And that's 3 to 5 years of use. I mean, if we purchase something with 120,000 miles on it, we don't put a ton of miles on a car every year. So, you know, that really is a pretty effective fleet management opportunity for us.
I do know you mentioned the high-performance engines, that Chrysler's going to discontinue that Hemi in either 23 or 24, I don't remember which.
Yeah, actually, that was interesting because the Highway Patrol folks were talking about that in my conversations with them this week. They have had some of the V6 turbos, and it sounds like maybe not 100% happy with the V6 turbo at some of the highway operations, and so they're trying to figure out what the next option is. I've actually heard that Dodge is going to almost completely discontinue the Charger line, so that may not even be an option in the future. I know a lot of those folks are going with the Durango or a similar SUV package. So,
But it would be interesting if you could obtain the maintenance records on it, see what it was like, though.
we got a pretty good packet of information with the last one, and
It's several dates.
but I'm happy to get any information that you'd like, Councilman.
It'd just be nice to know.
Weird question, Chief, but do you know what part of the state this vehicle comes from?
I'm really sorry I don't. I felt a little bit bad because I know the trooper was actually wanting to try to purchase it at auction. And so we were probably not helping him out on that, but I don't know what part of the state the trooper was assigned to. So we took that as a good sign that it was a nice car. If the trooper had taken good enough care of it that he would consider trying to buy it back when it goes to the auction, that'd be beneficial.
I would think the biggest downfall of any of a police car would be the seats breaking down.
That's one of the nice things about the police package is that they actually have a pretty robust interior. If you have a chance, Councilman, you might swing up by the shop because the one we just purchased is there, and it really is a pretty nice piece of equipment.
Yeah, you mentioned the light package on it. You can't miss them when they're sitting alongside the road with all the lights on.
No, you can't. And just for perspective, I mean, when we purchased or when we're laying out our bid for the new Explorers, I mean, we're spending like between $11,000 and $13,000 for all of the lighting and equipment on that car. So buying a fully spec'd out police car with really high quality, I mean, this is what they have in these cars is even nicer than what I've laid out for our equipment package. And we got a pretty decent equipment package for the new Explorers. I mean, we're buying the car for less than I can outfit a new one. So it's kind of a nice advantage.
Mr. Mayor, if there's no further discussion, I would move to approve the vehicle purchase for the police department as presented.
I have a motion from Councilman Victorin to approve the vehicle purchase from the Highway Patrol as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Deal. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the purchase from the Wyoming Highway Patrol of the vehicle as presented this evening, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that is approved.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Chief. Next item on the agenda is item number 8, which is the proposal for the 2024 golf season relating to 2024 golf rates and the 2024 golf tournament schedule. Thank you for appearing tonight, Mr. Dent.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Looks like first it is the rates to be approved. On your sheet there, you can see which ones are highlighted. Those would be the ones that I want to adjust. If you note down on 1-year city cart lease, if you look at the 475, 625 to the very right, that's not highlighted, but that was changed from 605 to 625. I would note also, if I'm not mistaken, 2022 fee, just for an example, single was 500. 2024 is going to 595, so that's quite the jump. But as you've seen, it's quite necessary with where we are in the world. You see it everywhere.
Now, David, in just generalities, this proposed increase for the 2024 fees, I know from talking to you, you've reasoned it out, thought it through, researched
Yes, sir.
various other golf courses
As I
here
do
and
every
elsewhere.
year. Yes, sir.
So it's based on research that you've done.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I would say this on top of that, we're not the lowest, we're certainly not the highest, but we're probably, of the 8, 9 courses I check with, we're probably 7th, 8th, but we're definitely not the highest, but I would say we're the best.
Just at a glance, these seem pretty reasonable, especially given the inflation we've just been through, and we know on the other end, as far as the expenses, they certainly have.
Sure.
Everything has gone up from
Well,
everything, so.
I also, when I speak to our maintenance staff about it, if we're going to justify a move like this, then we need to have presentation. And that starts at the gate, which we've long been wanting to change that as well. That's coming in the near future. But if we're going to do something like this, then we need to make sure that we meet our goals during the year, we set goals for the next year, and then that we hear local, or I should say not just local, but from other places geographically, what their comments are. And I think the mayor can actually chime in on that, because you get emails.
I do.
And that's a very big thing to me, to make sure that we get those emails. I pass those along to our maintenance crew, our golf shop staff. They're very important. That's morale. And they do a good job. They've been there. In fact, this is the same crew I inherited 15 years ago. Which, by the way, they're not far from all being gone. As far as, not fired, I don't mean that. I mean retired.
So before I forget, I have had several emails this last golf season to the mayor, complimenting the course itself and the service out there and the friendliness, and I mean, just very high regard from out-of-town golfers that have played out there. So.
That's good, because I don't think I have the most charming personality, but it's welcomed for sure.
Under the tournaments section there, it says weekdays guests. Guests are non-annual golf license holders. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, sir. That is, if you have an annual pass, then, well, if you don't have an annual pass and you play in the tournament, those tournaments have to take that fee out of that tournament fee. If you have the annual pass, it's in there. That's just a grandfathered way of doing it, and a lot of courses across the country that they do it that way.
So if you have the fee, like for a couple married up here for the $810, then you get, if you have that $810 fee paid, then you can play in the tournaments? Is that what you're saying?
They play in the tournaments.
Without paying additional?
Well, they pay a fee, but it goes to the tournament, and then those fees get distributed throughout the community, because it goes back into our local economy.
And when you say that, a lot of these tournaments are charity tournament.
Sure, sure, and a lot of courses do that. Any course that I've ever been to has done that. It's a little different here, but any course that I've ever been to, you need those because those people come into your community, they support your commerce.
Another way to put it, Dave, on that tournament would be like if an annual card holder brought in an out-of-town guest
Yes, sir.
to play in that weekend tournament or whatever, that guest would pay that fee.
Yes, sir. And
Yeah.
down at, if
Go
there's
ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I do appreciate doing these annually. Philosophically, I think it always makes more sense than try to keep up with things rather than put it off, and then have a huge increase. So I like this idea of incremental increases. I think that's a good way to do utilities. Nobody likes raising prices, but the reality is that's the world we're in. and
Yeah,
this is-
I agree with that. It's not easy on me either, because it's a lot of homework that I put into it, that I want to be able to justify what we're doing and compare to other golf courses. And I don't compare ourselves to a 9-hole budget. We're not a 9-hole budget, we're an 18-hole budget. So the golf courses that I compare us to are certainly 18 holes, and golf courses that we should be compared to. Just to name a few would be Monument Shadows, Douglas, Alliance, Kimball. There's one in Casper, and then even, what's the one in Cheyenne? Airport. I'll compare our golf course, in particular, our golf course, not our fee, because we're not necessarily, I mean, Scottsbluff Country Club is a country club. Their facilities are going to offer more facility-wise, tennis courts and pools and things like that. We're not going to compare that, but I'll compare our golf course to their golf course any day, or any of the golf courses around, for sure. And our staff. That means Gardy, too.
And your process of coming and using your reason and your logic and your research to justify this increase, then you're able to explain it to the individual golfer out there.
Oh,
that may
absolutely.
have questions about how do you justify the increase, right?
Sure, and I'm glad you brought that up, because on this sheet, if you see seniors, there's a lot of golf courses that do not offer that. They'll just offer a single. I want to offer the senior to keep them out there, keep them off the couch, keep them out from in front of the TV, keep them playing golf as long as we can. And we created the senior tees as well so that they can move forward. It's no fun playing from a back tee when you can't hit it that far. So there's extra thought into it, is what I'm saying.
I noticed you haven't raised the annual trail fees. Is there a reason? You didn't-
The annual trail fee has gone up significantly since I've been here. It went up $50 last year. In fact, I think when I got here, it was $50. $50 to $75. That might have been when Todd was here. I think I moved it to $150, and then now it's at $250, so.
But you didn't raise it from last year to this year.
I think last year was 200. No, this year, right, you're right, exactly. That's comparable to other golf courses, and somewhat maybe higher than others. The same way with our 9-hole seats. They're like $11. At some courses we're 10, but our 18 holes, theirs is 12, ours is 14. In certain courses they're higher, but.
And Dave, I have a question on that, under the tournaments category.
Mhm.
You have weekdays and then weekends,
Yes, sir.
and that's $25, right, for the weekend rate? Is that for 2 days, a Saturday and a Sunday?
Yeah, they'll pay that twice. If it's a one-day tournament, they'll pay it once. If it's a 2-day, they'll pay it 2 days.
That was my question.
Right.
Because it could be read
Sure, absolutely.
that they'd only pay the 25 for the 2 days, but it's
Right.
25 per day.
Right. You might note too that the weekday has always been lower. Now it's the same. I feel it's the same course that you get. So I finally did that. I think when I got here, that was 15 for the weekday. So if you look at the fee structure for an 18-hole with a cart, it's now $50. When I got here, it was 36. I don't think we can justify that if we don't do our job.
Dave, tell me about the punch card, because I thought we had that on already.
I think we added that last year, didn't we, Sylvia? Or we had to come back in?
This year.
Well, it was off last year, and then I had to come back in and get it approved a second time. So that's 12 rounds for the price of 10.
Did that go up from the,
It did. It did, because you take that price of the green fee itself and times it times that.
And you come, historically, you come at this time of the year, November, December.
Yes, sir.
Because you want to prepare for the golf season of 2024.
Yes, and the Christmas season is upon us, and not everybody does it, but there's a few that buy the pass for a Christmas gift, or maybe the trophy or something for one of their. And I'm not sure this council knows, well, maybe you do, because we've educated you a little bit, but there's 4 cart barns out there, 2 of them are ours. 2 of them are not. Ours are full. Plus, we lease 7 of our city lease carts out on top of already renting them out in a day, if that makes any sense. So I have 15, I'll lease one to you all year long and hope that I don't run out of carts so that when you come out, you have yours. Which, by the way, I got to put that bug in your ear. We ran out of carts 30 times, no less than 30 times last year. And I've talked to our treasurer about it, but we need 5 more. We certainly don't need that scenario for people coming to our golf course and having to wait. So Massac is checking into that and seeing what kind of prices they can get to us. They don't have to be new carts. The 5 that we want can be old carts. We just have to have something available. That would be revenue lost if they walk away.
And do most people use a cart nowadays?
We're pretty old. Pretty old community,
Even the young
but
folks
most yeah, we got some walkers. You know, JB Hayes, he's out playing, he walks. But we don't have a ton of walkers. We have mostly riders. And also, Sylvia, I think you know this, but ours are full, and we have an agreement with the country club to have 10 of their stalls because they had 40 empty. And so now they have 30 because we have 10 of theirs, and then we split that with them come December. So that's a good scenario for us. It's a great scenario to run out of carts. It's not a great scenario to have people waiting an hour. And Mayor, I'll get you those numbers, and Lynette those numbers when Massac gets me those numbers for what that might cost us to have 5 additional carts.
And I think we all know it, but I want to say it just so we're all reminded of it. This course is open 20 or all year round.
Another benefit to your annual pass, most courses in Wyoming, and I'm pretty clear on this, either cover their greens or shut their courses down. We'll play all year long, weather permitting.
The only time there isn't somebody out there is if there's snow on the ground.
Absolutely right. We're lucky to live in this banana belt. And I have to remind players of that. You get a better benefit for your buck here than you do in Casper, Cheyenne, Rawlins, places like that. I'll almost guarantee you their greens are covered by now. Well, if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer those, or we can move on to the tournament event schedule.
Gentlemen, do you have any further questions for Mr. Dent on the fees? Okay. Dave, if you discuss the tournament schedule.
Thank you, Mayor. So the tournament schedule over the years has had very little change. There's some tournaments that have gone away, like the Shriners and the Dare tournament. But mostly, for most part, we're still on track with the dates that you see with the tournaments that are on this list. I might note one change. It's not a tournament that is going to be an annual tournament. It's just that our ladies Golf Association is in charge of the Panhandle Senior Ladies, and they want to have their tournament here, but it's not an annual tournament. It won't be here next year. That's at the bottom of the page on the second page. But I feel like that needs to be approved as well. But other than that, it's pretty much the same. If there's any changes in the tournament event schedule, they're minor and may be caused by weather. That would be the biggest factor.
If, like these early spring tournaments, you could clearly get a snow and get snowed out, will they generally just cancel it, or will they try to reschedule it to the following weekend, or?
Well, for instance, like the Eastern Wyoming College Tournament has had to move to the very next Thursday, Friday because of snow. But we've been pretty lucky over the years and haven't had, I mean, we've had some thunderstorms immediately after a tournament gotten over. It's happened a lot, but hasn't happened much during the event.
Well, it looks like you have, for instance, Eastern Wyoming College, Friday, the 12th of April. If that were to get snowed out,
It can.
you've got a couple of weekends that are open there that they could.
Right. I think, yeah, for sure, that can be. I think that's the same weekend as the Masters, so I won't be here for that.
Somebody could be.
Is the Trans-West Ford tournament still on?
Trans-West is now Trans-West and Leadheads.
And Leadhead?
It's combined, yeah. They sponsor it. That's actually a CCC tournament, country club tournament.
Dave, has there ever been any talk about it, like a pro-am tournament?
That would be in my kind of genre, if you will. And I'm thinking about that this year. In fact, that you brought that up.
And
Kind
the reason I do it is just a couple things: tourism and showcasing the course.
Sure. Well, the pro-am here would be, so it's a little different because our course is shorter. And we have front nine, back nine, is quite a bit different. That makes it appealing to like Wyoming State Golf Association. Not so much of a pro-am. If I did a pro-am, it would be me calling all the pros that I know and saying, hey, let's get this thing together and see if it can grow from there. Really something I should do.
Just an idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
So what do we have, like 23 tournaments this year?
22, I think. And if you notice clear to the right side, I'm glad you brought that up, where course opens on regular play, we make sure that that course gets open before or after the tournament. It does not get to take up the whole day. It's a public course. You got to get it open. That being said, all annual card holders don't play in tournaments. So you have to think about them too, as well as the tournaments. So that's 22 is enough. You gotta consider the annual card holders as well that don't play.
So just for instance, I'm looking at the EWC tournament on the 11th and 12th of April. So they'll be done by 2 p.m. with the tournament, right?
Well, they'll start at 9. It kind of depends on the amount of players. They've had as little as 35 and as many as 85.
Oh, but you say in that last column, open play in the morning, so anybody can go play in the morning.
It's a little bit of a problem for our maintenance crew because they're trying to get stuff done, but you have to get it open. You have to leave it open. Problem might not be the right word, but it can slow those guys up, but it's necessary to keep it open. I might add too, on the TaylorMade Club Fitting and Demo Day on Thursday, 5/23. We also bring Massett Golf Cart Company over here and have a barbecue. They sold 5 carts last year at that event.
Do we get a commission?
What's that?
Do we get a commission?
Yeah. You buy one, I get one.
If they sold them because they came over here, we ought to get a commission then.
Yeah, true.
Or a better rate lease than his.
Yeah, it's pretty high. But they typically, when they do a show like that, they're glad if they sell one. They sold 5 that day and two as a kind of a residual. Afterwards, somebody came from Douglas and Wheatland, they bought one on that day. So that's promoting your golf course as well. That's what I'm trying to say. Other than that, Mayor, that's the tournament schedule.
So I'm wondering, Mayor, do we need 2 separate motions or a single motion to approve the fees and the schedule? Or should they be 2?
Well,
I think we've done it with both of them at the same time before. haven't we?
I think you have, actually.
Therefore, if there's no further questions, I would make a motion to approve the proposed 2024 golf fee schedule and the 2024 tournament event schedule.
All right.
For the golf course.
Thank you, Councilman Patterson. I have a motion under item number 8 to approve both the 2024 golf rates as presented and the 2024 golf tournament schedule as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Deal. Gentlemen, is there further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor of approving the 2024 golf rates as presented and the 2024 golf tournament schedule as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, those golf rates and that tournament schedule is approved. Thank you, Mr. Dent.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Next item on the agenda is item number 9, request approval for resolution number 2023-12 to amend the 2023 fiscal year budget, and I'd call on Clerk Treasurer Strecker.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Whereas the general fund received unanticipated revenue, and whereas certain budgets had expenditures in excess of the budgeted amount, and whereas Wyoming state statute prohibits any officer or employee of a municipality to make any expenditure or encumbrance in excess of the total appropriation for any department, therefore be it resolved that the fiscal year 2024 budget of the city of Torrington be amended as follows. So here are some amendments that we've had throughout the year so far since July 1st. We did have some reimbursement of wages for officer coverage. The majority of that came from Cheyenne Frontier Days. So that is going back to wages. Insurance proceeds for hail claims, those are for the police car and the police SUV, totaling $33,478, and I'm just putting that into the vehicle fund. So the motion tonight will just come out of that $33,000. And also the infamous vac truck. We, as you can see in the bills, which will be next on the agenda, we do have the new vac truck and the bill to pay, so we will adjust the budget there with the insurance proceeds. And then I'm taking the remainder out of reserve. And that's all I have for now. I'll have some more next time.
Well, if nobody has any questions, I would move to approve the adjustments to the budget as presented.
I have a motion from Councilman Kelly under item number 9 to approve the resolution to amend the 2023 fiscal year budget as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Victorin. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of resolution number 2023-12 to amend the budget set forth in item 9 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that resolution set forth in item 9 is approved. Next item on the agenda is the, excuse me, the approval of the bills from November 8th, 23 to November 21st, 23. And I would call on Clerk Treasurer Strecker.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Attached to your agenda were a list of bills, and an additional set was handed out tonight. Even though it's not as many pages, the amount is rather large, over 1.5 million. So, be glad to answer any questions.
That 1.5 million does include the new vac truck too, so that's
It does.
a third of that. So.
It does. We also have some pay apps in there from some of our projects going on, which were rather large, but we do have reimbursements from grants for at least the wastewater. And so that's,
Well, I've got a question, but it's more for Jeff.
okay.
Can you give us an update on the maintenance garage construction and also the wastewater pretreatment?
Well, the maintenance facility garage, Dennis is kind of handling that, but the foundation is done. They've been working on getting the sewer connection for that facility, and from what I understand, the depth of the sewer at that location is about 14 feet into the ground. So
14 feet?
14 feet into the ground. So they've been working on that. I don't know if they've got that finished yet, but I know they've located it, and Bivens Construction, the one doing the, I think that work, will have it done soon if it's not already completed. Now, the wastewater treatment plant, that's a different issue. I'm glad you asked me about it because,
The other day I drove by there, it didn't look like they'd done anything.
well, let me give you an update. We had a meeting. We have progress meetings, bi-weekly progress meetings. The last one was held last Tuesday. At that meeting, it was discussed that the shoring company that Rice Lake West is hiring to do the shoring had some issues with clearances to the existing lift station and some of the sewer lines. As a result, we went out in the field. We took a look. They had things all marked out in the field where the Headworks building was supposed to go, the bypass lift station or wet well was supposed to go. And according to their shoring company, they need X amount of feet separation between these buildings because of the soil condition and the depth of the excavation itself. So, obviously the plans didn't have the necessary clearances that the shoring company needed, so we went back, and I think it was the next day we met with Tri-Hydro virtually over the internet and discussed options of how to relocate, move the Headworks building to get those necessary clearances. We came up with several scenarios. Tom, Matt, and Chris took those and kept thinking about other scenarios that they could come up with. And they did come up with one that I think is what we're going to go with. And what it'll do, it'll move the Headworks building to the north, where Rice Lake West was originally thinking that we should move it to the west. But with the new Vector truck that we just got, we found out that it has capabilities that the old Vector truck didn't have. So it has the ability to decant water out of the solid waste so that they can just pump the water into any any sewer manhole. So they don't really need a Vector truck receiving station, which was planned and put into the plans as part of this wastewater treatment plant. So we're going to delete that item. What they're going to do is relocate the influent line that comes into the lift station. They're going to put two manholes in there, one to the west where the garage facility is going to be, and then another one basically where the receiving station was going to be. And they're going to run that line into the current manhole collection station that receives both the north waste, sewage waste from north of town and the one that comes from the west of town. So with that, Rice Lake West, Tri-Hydro is going to go back, modify their plans. We met today with Tri-Hydro and Rice Lake West, and both of them seem to agree that this proposal will work for the shoring company. And hopefully the delay is minor since we've come to a conclusion and actually have been able to, I think, resolve this issue, at least on paper. So we'll see what happens.
The only question I would have on what you told us was, what if the next Vector truck doesn't have the same capabilities of this one?
Usually technology goes the other direction. They usually get more advanced instead of becoming less advanced. And now that they have that, they could always spec that as part of the next Vector truck.
We hope.
Well, you can always spec it. Whether the market can deliver it or not, that's another thing, but typically they will, since it's available.
And this just highlights what a specialized, I don't know if I'm using the right word, but a specialized engineering and construction project this actually is. Because it's a deep hole with a high water table and certain soil, and it's very complicated and has to be done right, or it won't work.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Plus the safety of all the people, workers involved. I mean, some of these people are going to be working 30 to 35 feet below ground level. So if that shoring, for whatever reason, were to give, that would be very tragic, because likely that's probably going to be a non-survivable accident.
I mean, and Mr. Harkins, you always want everything to work exactly as it's laid out in the plans, but this didn't catch you or the other engineers too much by surprise, this current issue?
I think it kind of caught Tri-Hydro a little bit by surprise. I mean, they did some soil borings. Obviously, they went down 40 feet. So I think they felt pretty comfortable in their design, but the shoring company, the ones that are actually going to be responsible for putting this stuff in the ground, they have their own criteria, safety criteria. And one of their criteria is if we get too close to the existing lift station, we're actually going to be lower than the existing lift station. And there's potential for collapsing the existing lift station if this isn't done right either. So Yes, it's very technical.
Not to mention expensive.
Okay, I won't mention that.
If there are no more questions about the bills, I move to approve the bills as presented.
I have a motion from Councilman Kelly in item number 10 to approve the bills as presented. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I think Councilman Patterson won that. Second from Councilman Patterson. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none. All those in favor of approval of the bills as set forth in item 10 on the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, those bills are approved. Next item is public comment, and I see no members of the public here. I'd certainly offer any councilman time to comment, if they have any comments they would like to make.
I just want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving.
Good comment.
I'll second that.
I'll third that.
And I'll follow.
And I already said it at the beginning. I did want to, if I can find it here quickly, Fire Chief Petch was out of town, and he's not able to come tonight. He's normally here. So I'll sort of skim his report. It was a pretty comprehensive report. This was his email to me this afternoon. The fire landscape has continued to be busy for us. We are going on about 16 or 17 calls for the month so far. Some of those calls have included a mutual aid call with veteran for a haystack fire. Today we were dispatched by Lingle for a call because they were seeing lots of smoke. This ended up being a controlled burn that was not called in. Sunday morning we were dispatched to a motor vehicle accident just on the outskirts of town to the north. We did not have to do anything when we arrived on scene, as EMS had the patients out of the vehicle. Unfortunately, one of the occupants succumbed to their injuries and did not survive. Engine number 5 is back in town and in service. Basically, it looked like they had to rebuild the pump because of corrosion and wear and tear with the age of the vehicle. We have had a few haystack fires in the last 2 weeks, which I think is a little strange considering the time of the year that it is. With the holidays being here, things will be busy for us helping out with community events. We will be helping Chief Johnson with the Christmas parade. We will also be participating in Shop with a Cop, and we will also take Santa to the elementary school to visit students and give them a book and a candy cane. Overall, things are going well in the department. I think we have people trained up good and dialed in doing good work when we are on calls. So that's a good comprehensive report, I think, and I appreciate his sending it to us. So there again, just to read, I heard announcement to everybody, if you're going to have a controlled burn, please contact dispatch and let them know. Otherwise, people see smoke and rightfully reason that it's not smoke they should be seeing. And if they call dispatch and you have called in, then they're probably not going to dispatch the fire department. But if they don't, they probably have no choice but to do that. So would just request that anybody who is going to do a controlled burn, please contact dispatch and give them a heads up on that. So. All right, any other comments? Seeing none, we have completed tonight's agenda, and therefore this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, folks.
Sign the bills.